Okay, so let me ask you something. And I want you to actually think about this, not just scroll past it. Have you ever gotten to the end of the month, and I mean like the actual last few days of the month, and looked at your bank account and thought, where did it all go? Like, you know money came in, you remember getting paid, you maybe even told yourself this month would be different. This month you'd finally put something away. Maybe start that savings account you've been meaning to open for literally 2 years. And then somehow, you're sitting there with $17 and some change, wondering if you should cancel your streaming subscriptions. Again, it's this specific kind of tired, not the tired you get from working a long shift or staying up too late. It's the tired of trying and still feeling stuck. And the worst part? You're not even bad with money. You're not out here buying yachts or gambling away your paycheck. You're just living. And somehow, living keeps costing more than you're making, or at least more than you feel like you're keeping. My name is Emmy. And honestly, I spend way too much time thinking about money. Not in a Wall Street, wear a suit and scream at a screen kind of way, but more in a why do some people quietly build financial stability while others keep spinning in the same cycle no matter how hard they work kind of way. That question has genuinely kept me up at night. I've read the books, talked to the people, made my own mistakes, some of them genuinely embarrassing. And what I found is that the gap between staying broke and building something real almost never comes down to how much money someone makes. Almost never. And I think that is one of the most important things you could hear today. Because if it's not about income, then there's a door open for you right now that you maybe didn't realize was there. What I want to walk you through today isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. You've seen those. They're exhausting. What I want to talk about is something quieter and honestly way more powerful, a set of daily habits and mental frameworks that when you actually do them consistently, make it structurally, almost mechanically impossible to stay broke. Not overnight, but over time, the shift is dramatic, and I've seen it happen for people who had way less to start with than you might think. So stick with me on this. Make yourself a coffee, close the other tabs. This is going to be worth your time. Here's the first thing I want you to understand, and I really need you to hear this without getting defensive, because it's not an insult, it's actually the most freeing thing I can tell you. Being broke is not who you are, it's what you're doing. Specifically, it's a collection of small daily behaviors that, when repeated over time, produce a broke outcome. And that sounds harsh, but stay with me, because the flip side of that is that wealth, or at least financial stability, is also just a collection of small daily behaviors that, when repeated over time, produce a stable outcome. Neither of these things is destiny, neither of them is personality, they're both just habits on repeat. I used to have this friend, brilliant guy, genuinely one of the smartest people I've ever met, and he was always broke, not a little broke, chronically, exhaustingly broke. And he had explanations for it. The economy was unfair, his rent was too high, his job underpaid him. And honestly, he wasn't wrong about any of those things. Those things were all true. But here's what was also true. He spent money the moment he had it, didn't even think about it. New sneakers, a spontaneous weekend trip, rounds of drinks for people he barely knew. The money didn't flow out of his hands because he was irresponsible or careless. It flowed out because he had no daily system catching it. Compare that to someone I know who earns less, meaningfully less, but every single day she does a few small things, checks her accounts, moves money around deliberately, asks herself 1 or 2 questions before any non-essential purchase. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would look impressive in a YouTube thumbnail. And she's built a cushion, she has options, she sleeps better. Same economy, same city, different daily behaviors. So the first step, and this is genuinely step 1, is accepting that your financial situation right now is largely the output of your daily patterns, not your luck, not your circumstances alone, your patterns. And patterns can be changed. That's the whole point. Takeaway: starting today, start thinking of every financial decision as a vote. A small vote, but a vote. You're voting either for the version of yourself that has options or the version that's always scrambling. Cast enough votes in one direction and the outcome becomes inevitable. Okay, so here's where we get into the actual daily stuff. And I want to start with the one that sounds the most boring, because I promise it's actually the most transformative. Checking your accounts every single morning. I know. You're thinking, Emmy, that sounds like the most anxiety-inducing way to start a day. And I get that. I really do. For a long time, I avoided looking at my bank account like people avoid stepping on a scale, like somehow not looking made the situation better. Spoiler, it does not. Here's what actually happens when you check your accounts every morning. Not obsessively, not for an hour, just a quick, deliberate look. You create what behavioral economists call financial salience. Basically, your money stops being this abstract background stress and becomes something real and visible that your brain actually engages with. And when your brain engages with something, it naturally starts making better decisions around it. It's the same reason people who weigh themselves daily tend to maintain their weight better than people who avoid the scale. The information keeps you calibrated. Ignorance doesn't feel like bliss when the bill comes. The morning check takes literally 3 minutes. You open your banking app, you look at your checking account, your savings account if you have one, and your credit card balance if you carry one. You note anything unexpected, you remind yourself what bills are coming this week, and then you go about your day. That's it. But here's what's wild. When you do this every morning, your spending behavior throughout the day actually changes without you consciously trying to force it, because your brain has the real number. It's not working from an optimistic estimate. It knows what's actually there, and it starts making micro decisions accordingly. You'll skip the impulse buy not because you told yourself not to, but because your brain just did the math. Takeaway: set a phone alarm for tomorrow morning labeled Money Check. 3 minutes. Look at your accounts. Do it every day for 30 days and watch how your relationship with spending quietly shifts. All right, so this next one you've probably heard of, but I want to explain it in a way that actually makes it stick. Because most people hear it, nod, and then don't do it. And I think the reason they don't do it is because they don't fully understand why it works on a psychological level. Paying yourself first means that the moment money hits your account, your paycheck, a freelance payment, whatever, before you pay bills, before you buy groceries, before you do anything, a percentage automatically moves into savings or investments. Not what's left over, not the remainder, the first chunk, off the top. Now, most people do it backwards. They spend the month, pay what needs paying, and save whatever is left. And the problem with that system is that there's almost never anything left. Life is remarkably good at consuming 100% of available income if you let it. There's always something that needs to be paid, something unexpected that comes up, something you forgot about. The money evaporates. But when you automatically move, say, 10%, or even 5% if that's what's real for you right now, before any of that happens, something interesting occurs. You adjust. Humans are remarkably adaptable creatures. If your brain knows there's $2,300 available this month, it will find a way to live on $2,300. If it knows there's $2,000 available because $300 already moved to savings, it will find a way to live on $2,000. It's uncomfortable for maybe a week or two, and then it becomes normal. I remember when I first set up automatic savings, just $50 a paycheck, which honestly felt almost pointless at the time. And within about 3 months, I had built a buffer I'd never had before. And that buffer changed how I felt day to day in a way I genuinely wasn't expecting. I was less anxious, I was less likely to make desperate financial decisions. I wasn't saying yes to bad opportunities just because I needed the money right now. That small cushion gave me a little bit of power, and power changes the choices available to you. Set it up today. Not tomorrow. Log into your bank, find the automatic transfer option, and set up a recurring transfer for the day after your paycheck lands. Make it automatic so it requires zero willpower. You don't negotiate with yourself about it, it just happens. Takeaway: automate savings before you spend, even if it's small. The dollar amount matters less than the habit of doing it at all. Start with what you can and increase it incrementally over time. Okay, so this one is going to make some people uncomfortable, and I think that discomfort is worth sitting with. Most people think of the things they spend money on as just expenses, money out, gone. The coffee, the subscription, the course, the gym membership, just costs. And some of them are genuinely just costs. Fine, normal, a part of life. But some of those things are actually investments. And the people who build wealth have developed a pretty clear intuition for which is which. An expense is money you spend that produces nothing additional beyond immediate consumption. A coffee you drink because you like coffee? Expense. Netflix? Expense. A nice dinner? Expense. These things have value. They contribute to a good life. I'm not saying don't ever spend money on things you enjoy, but they don't multiply. They don't return. An investment is money you spend that produces something, a skill, an asset, a connection, a platform, an income stream, something that either grows or generates more money over time. A course that teaches you a marketable skill, investment. A book that genuinely shifts how you think about business, investment. A laptop that lets you do freelance work, investment. Equipment for a side project, investment. Even a gym membership can be an investment if keeping healthy keeps you productive and sharp. Here's where it gets interesting. The people who stay broke tend to be very cautious about investments and very casual about expenses. And the people who build wealth tend to be very deliberate about expenses and remarkably willing to spend on investments. I know people who will agonize over a $40 online course and then spend $200 on a weekend without blinking. The course might have returned 10 times its cost in skills or opportunities. The weekend returned a good memory. I'm not saying the memory isn't worth something. I'm saying your brain should be asking the question every time you're about to spend money. Is this an expense or an investment? Not to make you miserable and frugal, but to make you intentional. Because intentional spending is the whole game. Takeaway: before any significant purchase, ask yourself honestly, is this money leaving and gone, or is this money potentially coming back in some form? Shift more of your spending towards things in the second category and watch how your trajectory changes over months. Okay, I want to talk about income for a second, because I've been talking a lot about managing what you have, and that matters enormously. But let's be real, there's a floor to how much frugality can help. If you're earning an amount that genuinely doesn't cover your basic needs no matter how carefully you manage it, you don't just have a spending problem, you have an income problem, and that requires a different solution. In 2026, the opportunities to increase your income without a traditional second job are genuinely unprecedented. And I don't mean that in a hypey, vague influencer way. I mean it practically. The internet has essentially created a global marketplace for skills. If you are good at something, writing, video editing, graphic design, social media management, bookkeeping, coding, teaching, translating, data analysis, customer service, voiceover work, tutoring, data analysis, someone somewhere on this planet is willing to pay you for that skill right now, today, without you having to move cities or go back to school or get anyone's permission. The key is building what I call a skill that travels, something you can do from anywhere, offer to anyone, and package as a service or product. And the daily habit here is simple. Dedicate 30 to 60 minutes every day to developing that skill or marketing it. Not 5 hours, not a whole weekend, just 30 to 60 minutes. Consistent, every day. You know, I think about how many hours a week most people spend doom scrolling or watching content they won't remember, and I'm not judging, I do it too, but if even half of that time went into building something, the compounding effect over a year would be genuinely shocking. You'd look back 12 months from now and barely recognize your financial situation. The reason most people don't do this isn't laziness. It's that they don't believe it'll actually work for them specifically. They see other people succeed and think there's something different about those people, some confidence or talent or luck they don't have. But honestly, most of the people who are earning extra income online now had that exact same doubt. They just kept going past it. Takeaway. Identify one learnable, sellable skill and spend 30 to 60 minutes on it every day. Skill platforms, YouTube tutorials, free courses, the learning resources exist. The daily commitment is what separates the people who stay wishing from the people who actually shift their income level. Okay, I know, tracking your spending sounds like homework. It sounds like the kind of thing you set up with great enthusiasm in January and abandon by the 14th. I've done that multiple times. The enthusiastic spreadsheet, the budgeting app you spend 20 minutes setting up and then open maybe twice before it becomes a thing you feel guilty about. But here's what changed for me, and maybe this reframe works for you too. I stopped thinking of expense tracking as budgeting and started thinking about it as intelligence gathering. Like, I'm not tracking my spending to punish myself for buying too much takeout. I'm tracking it to understand my actual behavior, because understanding your behavior is the only way to change it. You can't optimize something you can't see. That's true in literally every area of life. Fitness, relationships, business, and money is no different. When you track your spending, patterns emerge that genuinely surprise you. The amount that goes towards random small purchases, the subscriptions you forgot you had, the category you consistently underestimate. These things are invisible until you make them visible. And here's the thing, you don't have to track forever. Track for 90 days. Just 90 days, honestly. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, take a photo of receipts if that's your style. At the end of those 90 days, you will know exactly where your money goes, and you will have identified at minimum 3 to 5 places where you can redirect spending towards better uses without any meaningful reduction in your quality of life. I promise you that is true for almost everyone who does this sincerely. The goal isn't to spend nothing on joy. The goal is to spend intentionally on joy and ruthlessly cut the spending that produces nothing, not even happiness, just habit. Takeaway. Track every transaction for the next 90 days. Use any tool you'll actually use. At the end, identify your top 3 spending categories that surprised you. Start there. This one doesn't show up in most financial content, and I think that's a mistake, because I've watched really motivated, disciplined people get pulled back into financial struggle, not because of any failure in their own habits, but because of their environment, the people around them, the energy in their daily orbit. Money stress is contagious, so is financial carelessness. If everyone in your social circle is spending impulsively, talking about money anxiously, or mocking the idea of saving or investing, that pressure is real, and it works on you whether you're conscious of it or not. Humans are social creatures. We regulate our behavior based on what our group considers normal. If your group's normal is paycheck to paycheck chaos, staying in that normal takes almost no effort. Escaping it takes constant, exhausting resistance. This doesn't mean you need to fire all your friends or become some kind of isolated financial monk, but it does mean being intentional about whose financial thinking you absorb. Podcasts, YouTube channels, books, communities, there's an entire world of people talking about money in a healthy, grounded, realistic way. Spend more time in those spaces. Let those be the conversations that feel normal to you. And here's the delicate part. If you have people in your life who consistently put financial pressure on you in unhealthy ways, pressure to spend when you can't, to lend money that never comes back, to participate in lifestyle inflation you can't afford, those conversations need honest boundaries. You don't have to explain your whole financial philosophy, but you do have to protect your plan from people who don't respect it. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your willpower does. Design your environment intentionally. Takeaway: audit your financial environment this week. What content are you consuming? Who are you talking to about money? Make one change to increase the presence of healthy financial thinking in your daily life. We're getting close to the end, and I want to talk about something that I think is the root of why most people never actually build the financial life they want, even when they have all the information, even when they know what to do. It's impatience. The compound effect, the idea that small, consistent actions build on each other and eventually produce results that seem disproportionate to the effort, is the most powerful force in personal finance. It's also the most boring thing I could possibly say in a YouTube video in 2026. Nobody wants to hear, just do small things every day for a long time and it'll work out. That's not satisfying. That doesn't make for a good thumbnail. But it is the truth. The person who saves $50 a month at 22 is not going to feel wealthy at 23 or 24. They might even feel a little stupid watching friends spend freely while they're moving money into accounts nobody can see. But at 35, 40, 50, the math starts doing things that look almost magical. Meanwhile, the people who were spending freely are starting from zero or from debt. The daily habits we've talked about, the morning money check, the automatic savings, the skill building, the expense tracking, none of them produce dramatic results in a week. But here's what they do in a week. They build, they layer. Each day you do them, they become slightly more automatic, slightly more natural. And as they become your normal, your financial reality starts slowly, quietly shifting. Not in a way you can see day to day, but in a way you absolutely feel when you look back at where you were a year ago. This is the work. It's unglamorous and it's real, and it's the only method that has ever actually worked for regular people, without windfalls or inheritance or lottery tickets. Takeaway: trust the process, even when you can't see the results yet. The results are being built right now in the habits. Keep going. So let's bring this all together, because I've thrown a lot at you and I want to make sure you walk away with something concrete and something real. You started this video maybe feeling that familiar, specific tired, the one that comes from trying and still feeling stuck. And I want to say something to that feeling directly. It makes complete sense. The financial systems most of us grew up in taught us almost nothing useful. Nobody sat us down at 16 and said, hey, here's how compounding works. Here's how to build a skill that earns. Here's why paying yourself first changes everything. Most of us figured this stuff out through painful trial and error, or we haven't figured it out yet. That's not a character flaw, it's just a gap in the education we were given. But now you have a direction, and the direction is actually simple, even if it's not easy. Check your accounts every morning. Move money to savings before you spend it. Learn the difference between an expense and an investment. Build a skill the world will pay for. Track where your money actually goes. Protect your financial environment. And trust that small, consistent actions done daily compound into a completely different life over time. None of these things are magic. None of them are secrets that only rich people know. They're just the quiet, daily disciplines that, honestly, most financially stable people have internalized so deeply, they don't even think of them as disciplines anymore. They're just how life works for them. That can be how life works for you. I think about the version of you a year from now who did these things every day, not perfectly, not without setbacks, not without the occasional month where it falls apart a little, but consistently. That version of you has a savings cushion, has a marketable skill that's starting to pay, is spending more intentionally and feeling less anxious about money in a way that bleeds into everything else. Because money stress doesn't stay in the financial corner of your life. It touches your relationships, your health, your confidence, your creativity, and financial stability does the same thing in the opposite direction. This isn't just about the money, it's about the life the money makes possible, the choices you get to have, the security that lets you sleep at night, the options that open up when you're not always operating in desperation mode. You don't have to have it all figured out today, you just have to start, and then you have to start again tomorrow and the day after that. That's it. That's the whole secret. It's embarrassingly simple and it genuinely works. I'll see you in the next one.